Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. I'm Ishai, with me is Mol, and we're the course's TAs. Today we're going to be talking to you about how to use the tools we learned in the lesson and so far in order to prioritize between different interventions and other things in life. Specifically, we're going to be talking about Unlimit Health and Give Directly, the two organizations and interventions that were discussed in lesson 3. So let's dive in.
Great. I think a good place to start would be the marginal cost effectiveness. We looked at a report from 2014 where GiveWell compares Unlimit Health and Give Directly. So we can see from their direct comparisons that Unlimit Health has a potential impact that's 3 times greater than Give Directly. And that's if we look at the conservative side. We know that there are reports that say that it can be even more than 10 times greater than Give Directly in terms of impact. And that's when we're looking at measurements that are regarding and indicative of quality of life.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you, Mo. These are really large potential impacts, but it's important. The potential bit here is really important. And I think this is where we need to start using the tools we learned in the lesson about expected marginal cost effectiveness and introducing certainty and hierarchy of evidence in order to get a better understanding of where we're going to end up having more actual impact in the real world. And I think that here it's useful to consider the fact that Give Directly has 8 RCTs, while Unlimit Health has less. So we have more certainty that Give Directly's impact is going to materialize.
Of course, I agree that we need to look at strength of evidence, and it's something that should be really, really weighted when we talk about prioritization. I think we can't forget the amount of impact that we can do. I mean, if we take the conservative research where we see that Unlimit Health has a potential impact that's 3 times greater than Give Directly, and again, that's conservative. Even if I believe that like 50% will materialize, then we still impact so much more people, and it's a really significant and meaningful impact for their lives. So I think the impact here is something that we really, really can't ignore.
Obviously, the calculation of the potential impact is really big and it's really important. But for me personally, I look at this and I say, at the end of the day, we need to think that the decision we're making is whether somebody will almost more certainly have a roof over their head during a rainy season or not. And I would prefer to give directly because I have more certainty that the impact will actually materialize.
Yeah, I really see what you're saying. And I think we're talking about risk aversion. I think you're a bit more risk averse than I am. And that's why you would prioritize Give Directly. And my opinion, my personal opinion would be to see how much impact I can do, how many people I can affect. And that's why I would prioritize Unlimit Health, and just their potential impact is something that I can really relate to. And I really want to affect as many people as I can.
Yeah, I think that here, I feel that when I'm helping others, I have a responsibility toward them. For me, I can make whatever decision I want about myself. But when it's other people, I shouldn't be taking chances with somebody else's, shelter for the winter. I should be prioritizing what means that they're definitely going to get the impact that we're looking at.
In my point of view, how I look at things, if we don't try these impacts, if we don't take our chances and have these different interventions, we don't know what would work more and what would work less. We don't know where we could do the most impact, where we can affect as many people, and maybe the intervention we're doing is not the best one we can do.
Yeah, I can understand where you're coming from. I just think, to an extent, for me personally, that's a risk that I might be willing to take, because I also think, beyond what I've already said, I think that we have some responsibility not to hurt other people or not to do any harm, maybe is a better way of saying it. And the less certain we are in the impact, actually, the less information we have about the intervention, the more chance there is that, there's some counterfactual we haven't considered that actually means that we are doing some kind of harm to people.
I'm not sure I agree that there's a real potential for harm, but I do think that we need to try those things, and we need to see different interventions to just really, again, to see what works, and to be able to find those best interventions and really make this big change.
Yeah, I know obviously that none of the RCTs, none of the research we have indicates that there's any harm from any of these. I just feel that it's a more general point that, there is a risk, there's a higher risk of that happening. But also for me, I think that, we tend to calculate like this expected marginal cost effectiveness, and we put a lot of weight in these numbers that we reach. And I think that we need to maybe be a little bit more humble and take into account the fact that these numbers are subjective to an extent. And as a result, we should probably prioritize how certain we are that the impact is going to materialize, rather than being like, okay, let's try to maximize the number that we reached in this way.
I think that in order to do that systematic change, we have to do these speculative interventions, and we have to try these different things, and just to see which one works more and how we can help those people. Because again, we all want to help people in the end.
There's a degree of certainty which just means that that the trade-off just becomes, for me, much clearer. So, I'll give an example, take it to the extreme. If I could certainly win $10,000, or I have an uncertain chance of, let's say 0.01% of winning $1 billion, I probably prefer the certain $10,000, even though, on average, I'm going to be earning a lot more. Expected value-wise, I'm going to be earning like $100,000 if I go for the $1 billion. So I just think that to a large extent, we all have an intuition around risk aversion being intuitive to us in some cases.
I actually completely agree with you. I think that our time is almost about to end. If I summarize the things that we talked about, I think that it's something that's really based on each and every one of us, and every one of us can be on this different spectrum of how risk averse we are, and we don't necessarily need to be in the on the edge. We can be somewhere in the middle. And we can be on different places in the spectrum based on different situations. And if we look at different interventions and we want to prioritize them, maybe we don't necessarily give 100% of our resources to one intervention and 0 to the other. We can do this kind of portfolio and just prioritize and give more to one intervention versus the other.
Yeah, so I totally agree, Mor. And I think the tip about building a portfolio is actually really useful. I think also in this case, both of these are great interventions and organizations. So that makes life a lot easier in some ways. I do also think that it can be useful for our learners to think about how we've used the tools that we learned in the lesson, whether that's cost effectiveness, whether that's expected marginal cost effectiveness specifically, certainty and the hierarchy of evidence. These are all tools that are going to be really useful for a wide variety of different interventions and comparing between them and prioritizing between them. And also for your lives, anything that they might do, I think that they'll see the value from that. So thank you guys so much. And we're looking forward to hearing from you in the comments.